Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Good evening, ladies, and thank you to Dawn Marie for her kind invitation to share some of the finer points of etiquette with each one of you, my very dear friends. As we have such a broad range of life experience represented in this room, consider these points I share as reminders for the very mature and sound advice for the youngest in our midst. If followed meticulously, they will serve you well and adorn your very person as with the most precious of jewels. I hope this thing does not fall on the floor. I shall not drop the mic. With regard to dress, be always careful when making up the various parts of your wardrobe that each article fits you accurately. Not in the outside garments alone must this rule be followed. An ill-fitting pair of corsets or wrinkles in any other article of the underclothes will make a dress set badly, even if it has been itself fitted with the utmost accuracy. A stocking which is too large will make the boot uncomfortably tight, and too small will compress the foot, making the shoe loose and untidy. In a dress, no outlay upon the material will compensate for a badly fitting garment. A cheap calico, made to fit the form accurately and easily, will give the wearer a more ladylike air than the richest silk, which either wrinkles or is too tightly strained over the figure. Collars or sleeves pinned over tightly strained to meet will entirely mar the effect of the prettiest dress. Now, regarding comfort, many ladies have to trace months of severe suffering to an improper disregard of comfort in preparing their wardrobe, or an exposure after they are dressed. The most exquisite ball costume will never compensate for the injury done by tight lacing. The prettiest foot is dearly paid for by the pain a tight boot entails, and the most graceful effects will not prevent suffering from exposure to cold. A light ball dress and exquisite arrangement of the hair too often make the wearer dare the inclemency of the coldest night by wearing a light shawl or hood to prevent crushing delicate lace or flowers. Make it a fixed rule to have the head, feet, and chest well protected when going to a party, even at the risk of a crushed flower or a stray curl. Many a fair head has been laid in a coffin, a victim to consumption, from rashly venturing out of a heated ballroom, flushed and excited, with only a light protection against keen night air. The excitement of the occasion may prevent immediate discomfort in such cases, but it adds to the subsequent danger. Now, with regard to your conduct in the street, a lady's conduct is never so entirely at the mercy of critics, because never so public as when she is in the street. Her dress, carriage, walk will all be exposed to notice. Every passerby will look at her, if it is only for one glance. Every unladylike action will be marked, and in no position will a dignified, ladylike deportment be more certain to command respect. Now let me start with you upon your promenade, my friend, and I will soon decide your place upon the list of well-bred ladies. First, my dear, your dress, not that scarlet shawl with a green dress. I beg of you, please spare my nerves. You are not so insane as to put on as to put on a blue bonnet. If you wish to wear the green dress, don a black shawl, and a white bonnet will do very well. One rule you must lay down with regard to a walking dress. It must never be conspicuous. Let each each part of the dress harmonize with all the rest. Avoid the extreme of fashion and let the dress suit you. If you are short and plump, do not wear flounces because they are fashionable, and avoid large plaids, even if they are the very latest style. If tall and slight, do not add to the length of your figure by long stripes, a little mantilla, and a caricature of a bonnet with long streaming ribbons. A large round face will never look well staring from a tiny delicate bonnet, nor will a long thin one stand the test much better. Wear what is becoming to yourself, and only bow to fashion enough to avoid eccentricity. To have everything in the extreme of fashion is a sure mark of vulgarity. What are you doing? Sucking the head of your parasol. Have you not breakfasted? Take that piece of ivory from your mouth. To suck it is unladylike. And let me tell you, excessively unbecoming, rosy lips and pearly teeth can be put to a better use. And you there, why did you not dress before you came out? It is a mark of ill breeding to draw your gloves on in the street. Now your bonnet strings and even your collar, pray, arrange your dress before you leave the house. Nothing looks worse than to see a lady fussing over her dress in the street. Take a few moments more in your dressing room, and so arrange your dress that you will not need to think of it again whilst you are out. Take care, dear. Do not drag your dress through the mud puddle. If you hold of your dress on both sides in that way, and drag it up so high, you will be set down as a raw country girl. Raise it just above the boot all round, easily letting it fall again in the old folds. Don't shake it down, it will fall back of itself. And remember that loud talking and laughing in the street are excessively vulgar. Not only this, but they expose a lady to the most severe misconstruction. Let your conduct be modest and quiet. Make no remarks upon those who you pass while there is even a possibility that they may hear you. Never stare at anyone, even if they have peculiarities which make them objects of remark. And lastly, never look back. It is excessively ill-bred. Now, with regard to conversation, the art of conversation consists in the exercise of two fine qualities. You must originate and you must sympathize. You must possess at the same time the habit of communicating and of listening attentively. The union is rare, but irresistible. Steele says, I would suggest but one great general rule in conversation, which is this, that people should not talk to please themselves, but those who hear them. This would make them consider whether what they speak be worth hearing, whether there be either wit or sense in what they are about to say, and whether it be adapted to the time when, the place where, and the person to whom it is spoken. Remember that having all talk sustained by one person is not conversation. Do not engross all attention yourself by refusing to allow another person an opportunity to speak, and also avoid the other extreme of total silence or answering only in monosyllables. If your companion relates an incident or tells a story, be very careful not to interrupt her by questions, even if you do not clearly understand her. Wait until she is finished with her relation, and then ask any questions you may desire. There is nothing more annoying than to be so interrupted. I have heard a story told to an impertinent listener, which ran this way. I saw a fearful sight. I was about to tell you, last Monday on the train. What train? The train from Boston. We were near the bridge. What bridge? I will tell you all about it if you will only let me speak. I was coming from Boston. Last Monday, did you say? And so on. Never interrupt anyone who is speaking. It is very inbred. And I must apologize to my daughter, Sarah, who has had to suffer her whole life with my interruptions. Never use the phrases, what do you call it? Thingamajiggy? What's his name? Or any such substitutes for a proper name or place. If you cannot recall the names you wish to use, it is better not to tell the story or incident connected with them. No lady of high breeding will ever use these substitutes in conversation. Avoid at all times mentioning subjects or incidents that can in any way disgust your hearers. Many persons will enter into the details of sicknesses, which should be mentioned only when absolutely necessary, or describe the most revolting scenes before a room full of people, or even a table. Others speak of vermin, noxious plants, or instances of uncleanliness. All such conversation or allusion is extremely ill-bred. It is not only annoying, but absolutely sickening to some, and a truly ladylike person will avoid all such subjects. Never repeat to a person with whom you converse any unpleasant speech you may have heard concerning her. If you give her pleasure by the repetition of a delicate compliment, or token of approval by a mutual friend, tell her the pleasant speech or incident, but do not hurt her feelings or involve her in a quarrel by the repetition of ill-natured remarks. And also, very important, my friends, avoid carefully any allusion to the age or personal defects of your companion or anyone who may be in the room, and be very careful in your language when speaking of a stranger to another person. I have heard a lady inquire of a gentleman who that frightful girl in blue could be, and receive the information that the lady in question was the gentleman's own sister. Now, with regard to table etiquette, in order to appear perfectly well-bred at table when in company or in public as at a hotel, you must pay attention 3 times a day to the points of table etiquette. If you neglect these details at home and in private, they will be performed awkwardly and with an air of restraint when you are in company. By making them habitual, they will become natural and appear easily and sit gracefully upon you. Avoid making any noise in eating, even if each meal is eaten in solitary state. It is a disgusting habit and one not easily cured if once contracted, to make any noise with the lips when eating. And do not pour coffee or tea from your saucer, from your cup into your saucer. And do not blow either of these or soup. Wait until they cool. Use the butter knife, salt spoon, and sugar tongs as scrupulously when alone as if a room full of people were watching you. Otherwise, you may neglect to do so when the omission will mortify you. Never pile up the food on your plate. It looks as if you feared it would all be gone before you could be helped again. And it will certainly make your attempts to cut the food awkward if your plate is crowded. If there is a delicacy upon the table, and we have had several here today, partake of it sparingly, ladies, and never help yourself to a second time. Sorry. If you wish to cough or use your handkerchief, rise from the table and leave the room. If you have not time to do this, cover your mouth and turn your head aside from the table and perform the disagreeable necessity as rapidly and quietly as possible. God bless you, my dear. Did she use her handkerchief? And above all, avoid gesticulation at the table. Indeed, a well-bred lady will never gesticulate, but converse quietly, letting the expression and animation of her features give force to her words. Now, with regard to polite deportment and good habits, manner may be, and in most cases probably is, the cloak of the heart. This cloak may be used to cover defects, but is it not better so to conceal these defects than to flaunt and parade them in the eyes of all whom we may meet? If nature has not invested you with all the virtues which may be desirable in a lady, do not make faults more conspicuous by thrusting them forward upon all occasions and at all times. Assume a virtue if you have it not, and you will, in time, by imitation, acquire it. By endeavoring to appear generous, disinterested, self-sacrificing, and amiable, the opposite passions will be brought into subjection. First in the manner, afterwards in the heart. It is not the desire to deceive, but the desire to please, which will dictate such a course. When you hear one who pretends to be a lady boast that she is rough, capricious, and gluttonous, you may feel sure that she has never tried to conquer these faults, and she would be ashamed, not proud of them. The way to make yourself pleasing to others is to show that you care for them. Thus, the first rule of a graceful manner is unselfish consideration of others. By endeavoring to acquire the habit of politeness, it will soon become familiar and sit upon you with ease, if not with elegance. If you wish to be a well-bred lady, you must carry your good manners everywhere with you. It is not a thing that can be laid aside and put on at pleasure. True politeness is uniform disinterestedness in trifles, accompanied by the calm self-possession which belongs to a noble simplicity of purpose, and this must be the effect of a Christian spirit running through all you do or say or think. And unless you cultivate it and exercise it upon all occasions and towards all persons, it will never be a part of yourself. Let it come into every thought, and it will show forth in every action. Let it be the rule in the homeliest duties, and then it will set easily within public, not in a stiff manner, like a garment seldom worn. True politeness, as I understand it, is kindness and courtesy of feeling brought into everyday exercise. It comprehends hearty goodwill towards everybody, thorough and constant good humor, and easy deportment and obliging manners. Every person who cultivates such feelings and takes no pains to conceal them will necessarily be polite, though she may not exactly know it, while on the other hand, a woman, essentially morose and selfish, whatever may be her pretensions, may be very far from truly polite. Let me recommend, therefore, far beyond all the rules ever penned by teachers of etiquette, the cultivation of kind and loving feelings. Throw your whole soul into the lesson, and you will advance rapidly towards the perfection of politeness, for out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh, and the movements of your form and the words you utter will follow faithfully the hidden springs of action within. And what a large amount of actual discomfort in domestic life would be prevented if all children were trained, both by precept and example, to the practice of common politeness. If they were taught to speak respectfully to parents and brothers and sisters, to friends, neighbors, and strangers, what brawlings and snarlings would be stilled. If their behavior within doors, and especially at the table, were regulated by a few of the common rules of good breeding, how much natural and proper disgust would be spared. If courtesy of demeanor towards all whom they meet in field or highway were instilled, how much more pleasant would be our town travels and our rustic rambles. Every parent has a personal interest in this matter, and if every parent would but make the needful effort, a great degree of gross incivility and consequent annoyance would soon be swept away from our hearths and our homes. So in closing, my dear sisters, I would lay down as the first rule, do unto others as you would others should do to you. You can never be rude if you bear this rule always in mind. For what lady likes to be treated rudely? True Christian politeness will always be the result of an unselfish regard for the feelings of others, and though you may err in the ceremonious points of etiquette, you will never be impolite. True politeness is the language of a good heart, and those possessing that heart will never, under any circumstances, be rude. They may not enter a crowded saloon gracefully. They may be entirely ignorant of the forms of good society. They may be awkward at table, ungrammatical in speech, but they will never be heard speaking so as to wound the feelings of another. They will never be seen making others uncomfortable by seeking solely for their own personal convenience. They will always endeavor to set everyone around them at ease. They will be self-sacrificing, friendly, unselfish, truly in word and deed, polite. Give to such a woman the knowledge of the forms and customs of society. Teach her how best to show the gentle courtesies of life, and you have a lady created by God, only indebted for the outward polish to the world.